I was like, someday this will be worth it, right? And it is worth it.
I had a really different journey, but you asked for that raise.
My career isn't happening to me. I am making my career happen.
Just seeing everybody being like, yeah, theater's the best. Like, I love it. I do feel so grateful to be in it.
Hello, and welcome to the Theatre Art Life podcast, sponsored by ClearComm. ClearComm are the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. They are relied upon from the Broadway stage to the West End to Cirque du Soleil. ClearComm brings seamless communication solutions to your stage. The Theatre Art Life podcast puts the spotlight on those who create live entertainment around the world, the culture creators and the backstage masters. My name is Anna Robb. In these next few episodes, we're recording in collaboration with my fellow podcaster and now friend Ethan from Artistic Finance. Today we're talking with Camille Schenkkan and Jessica Champagne Hansen. Camille is the Deputy Managing Director for Centre Theatre Group. Before moving into that position, she led workforce development and emerging artists programming at CTG starting in 2012. She is proud to teach in the Master of Arts Administration program at Goucher College, as well as the Department of Theatre and Dance at Cal State, LA. She has served on the Advisory Board for Emerging Arts Leaders Los Angeles and the Program Committee for the California State Summer School for the Arts. Jessica is a Los Angeles-based costume designer and technician with credits in theatre, dance, film, television, commercials, theme parks, and corporate clients. She is a published author, and her work has been featured in numerous theatre journals and books. Jessica is proud to be the head faculty and creator of the costume program at East Los Angeles College in the Theatre Arts Department. She is a member of IATSE Local 829 and serves on the publication committee for USITT. Jessica received an MFA in costume design from the University of California, Irvine, and a BFA in costume design and technology from Emerson College. Camille and Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Now we're across the planet together today, so I'd love to hear about, let's start with Camille. Tell us a little bit about yourself, other than what I just read in terms of your resume.
Sure. Well, I'm a mom to two amazing little kiddos, which I always like to talk about because it's not the easiest thing to be parenting in the arts field. So I love talking about that and trying to create better systems for people who are parenting. I come from a producing background and a fundraising background, and I've been with Centre Theatre Group for about 11 years. And I love it so much. I love the people. I love being able to create work in Los Angeles is really, really lovely. I'm super passionate about career development for people in theater and related fields. It's become something that has been a guiding force in my career, and I've done it differently in different jobs. But right now, I'm really lucky to be in a position where I get to do it really directly for the staff at CTG, where I can really think about what do people need to do their best work, what do people need to take the next step in their career, and that's really at the heart of all my practice in theater.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I too am also very passionate as a parent of two children, how to balance a career in the arts. And I hate the word balance because it's all life, right? Like everything we do is part of especially when you work in the arts, it's part of your life. So you have to find how to work together on all of those things. It's not about a balance. It's about it being in synergy, right?
That's right. It's like a collage.
Exactly. And Jessica, tell us a bit more about you.
Yes, so I'm in the company of amazing parents. I am also a mother of two, and my husband works in film and television as a production designer. But I moved here to Los Angeles from Boston, Massachusetts, where I was born and raised. And I want to say that my career path, as exciting as it is, it's a little boring in the sense that when I was 10, I wanted to be a costume designer, and I went to college to be a costume designer. And then I got my master's in costume design. And so that's a little like on a straight path, but my career journey was actually very winding. And I avoided becoming a teacher because you avoid what you love and what you're supposed to do sometimes. And so then 13 years ago, I said, I am supposed to be a teacher. So I am faculty at East LA College. I started the costume program there. And my passion soon became, just like Camille, helping others prepare for their career and making sure that they had all the answers that I felt like I never had along the way. So I jokingly call our book and a class that I wrote all the things that I cried in the bathroom stall at my first job about. Yeah.
I love that.
So, right. And I was like, someday this will be worth it. Right. And it is worth it. We were both so excited to share what we went through, and we're still going through, we fingers crossed, we still got a lot of career left. And, so yeah.
That's lovely. So tell me, this is a really good point to launch off, because I think that a lot of the people that I've spoken to in my podcast over the years, and especially I think during the pandemic, it came up a lot, is that a lot of the educational roadmaps for the people in the arts don't involve a lot of the business of the business. And essentially when you come out, you are your own business. If you're freelancing, you need to know how to do your tax and your things. And I know when I did my course, which was eons ago, there was nothing on that. Is it there now? What are your thoughts on that? How do we prepare people for that aspect, aside from the creative talent and the skills that they need to do the job, but the running of their own life? I'll start with you, Camille, maybe.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. That's that's something that we're both very passionate about. I call this area workforce readiness, and it is absolutely lacking in most programs. I think that the community college system does a lot better than other places, because community colleges, in my outside experience, tend to be more career focused. But yeah, I think there's a few ways that we can tackle this. I think within schools, and I've in the 10 to 15 years that I've been working in this area within Los Angeles, I have seen progress. I think there's more attention to it. I think coming out of the recession, there was a big focus on it. I think the pandemic, people are going, okay, we need to equip people better. So I've seen changes, and the sort of happy but frustrating thing is we're not talking about massive curriculum shifts. We're talking about including some really basic information. I know, shouting out Bernardo Solano at Cal Poly Pomona, I remember him saying, well, I have this list of topics that we had generated through this workforce readiness symposium that CTG, my organization, hosted. And he said, I'm going to have every professor pick a couple of these topics to include in their syllabus. And it is things like how to do your taxes. It's, it's literally telling people that they will be a freelancer. It's literally saying, do you know if you'll need to join a union in this career path that you want? It's very basic, which again is the bright side and the frustrating side. So I also think that organizations can be helpful, especially the larger nonprofits, can really be helpful, not just in cultivating these opportunities like paid apprenticeships, paid internships, but also in asking for what they want. So, there are certain career paths in theater where we have a horrible time hiring because there just aren't enough people coming into the field. Technical direction is a big one. Some of the niche areas in costuming, as Jessica knows, is another one. How can we as employers say to the education community, to people coming up in the field, look, if you go into these careers, you will work. You will find work in these careers. I think we can do a better job with the communication around that.
I totally agree. I think in some of the areas I work in, sort of the circus world, and a lot of the gaps in staffing on our side is massive. One is automation operators. Like, every time I turn up at a gig, I see the same people, and I love to see the same people, but it's like, where's the rest of them? And there's a big career to be had in advanced automation in theatrical systems, and it's globally people are dying for that that niche to be filled, and for people to be aware of those massive needs within the industry. I agree there needs to be an industry to education communication to guide the principles of what should be taught and what's accessible to people, rather than because our industry is expanding and changing, right, with technology and different systems and different companies building different, from drones to swimming pools, to all of these things in the shows that isn't just this black box theatre stage, is now on the vocabulary of careers within the industry, and people need to understand everything that's possible there.
That's right. And on the administrative side, there's careers like fundraising that you can get a whole undergraduate degree and nobody will say, did you know that there are all of these jobs on the back end that pay you a great wage, steady paycheck? They're not freelance positions, and you get to stay close to the art. And a lot of those are 9-to-5 jobs or close to it. And it's just fascinating to me that I got a theater degree, and I had I maybe came out of that being able to name 10 jobs in theater, which is pretty normal. We've done research. That's right. Like an graduate programs are really no better. But then you look at the staff page of a large regional theater, and CTG has almost 200 employees. So it's like, how are we even saying there are possibilities here that you don't even know exist? And if you have intersectional interests like writing in theater or math in theater or marketing in theater, come on down, there's jobs for you. But, just never we stick to actor, director, playwright, right? And so few of the people who graduate with those degrees will still be doing that job in 5 years. And that's okay. That's normal. Like, let's normalize the expansion of your career post-graduation.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Jessica?
The key really is the empowerment part of the puzzle. And it really does start in the classroom. And then folks like Camille are lifting it up even more in the industry and in the field. But it starts in the classroom. And I know in my personal experience, a lot of the information I was hungry for was a secret. I wanted to know how to do my taxes. Oh, it's hard. Okay, well, how do you network? Well, you just need to know a lot of people. I was like, but that didn't tell me how to do it. How do I do it? Right? I can draw, I can sew, I can do all these things, but I need to know the right people. I need to navigate. And I didn't have those navigation skills. And that's what we need to talk about in the classroom. It might seem like, well, my role is to teach you the art, the craft. But I really think, and as Camille said, I really think the landscape is changing. We need to be empowered as faculty, as anyone in a training position, a mentoring opportunity, to give all that we know, right? Plant all the seeds, because you never know in someone's career when that seed, you're like, whoops, I've heard this, I need this, I'm going to dig back and pull that out. And it wasn't about the art and it wasn't about the craft, but it was about being empowered, that I'm in charge. My career isn't happening to me. I am making my career happen. And there's a lot of leaders in education realizing that our role is so much more than teaching the skills. It's about mentorship, able to connect with students, able to see them through the different seasons of their careers. And taxes, knowing how to do them, that's a skill. How do I join the union and knowing how? That's a skill. All this information that was kept secret in the industry of, well, it's tough for us, so it's going to be tough for you. And I think we're finally shifting away from that idea that you have to learn the hard way because then you're tough enough, to be a part of it. That's not. And as somebody that works with students of all ages every day, that is not who they are. And so that's not where the industry is going, I can promise you. But the empowerment piece for Camille and I has always been really the most important part. We don't want to just tell you what to do. We want your toolkit to be so strong that you can figure it out when you need to on your own, knowing you have a team of people behind you always.
No, that's amazing. It's so good that that's being woven into the fabric of what you're doing in the educational sector. I want to ask both of you, in your own personal journey, are you good with money yourself, and what was your journey since when you came out of your education through to where you are now? What was your learning curve? And again, we'll start with you, Camille.
I love that question. um, so yeah,
I'm
I
waiting.
did
It's
not.
going to be a funny story, I'm sure.
No, it's just it's there is absolutely some. You ever giving somebody advice and you're like, I should take this advice too. There's always a piece of that, right? I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I think I, like a lot of people in this country, grew up thinking that talking about money was not something that we did. It wasn't polite, right? It wasn't like, I had no idea how much my parents made, or just absolutely no concept of how money worked. And that was really hard to build that muscle, especially because, as we've been talking about, I was a theater major and an English major. Definitely no sort of financial life skills coming out of that. So I was in the category of people who were like afraid to look at my bank account for a long time. At the same time, I was starting to work in management for a small theater, and Circle X Theater. And then I was in graduate school for arts management, which did teach me. I did take financial accounting with the amazing Faith Regal, shouting her out. So I was learning it. I learned it for my job before I had the light bulb of, oh, I can apply this to my own finances too. So it has taken so long. I'm 39 years old. It's taken a long time for me to normalize it. And what I try to practice is talking about money openly. I supervise the internship program at CTG for about 10 years. And I would tell them how much I made. I would tell them what the salary tiers are at CTG. I would, I think the more that we talk about money, the more that we get used to money is a tool. It doesn't have to be emotional. I hear students, especially a lot, going, either they're on the side of like, oh, I'm afraid of money, I don't like talking about money, or I hate money, all the way over to like, oh, I don't care about money. It's like, well, let's examine that. Money is a tool. So instead of talking about like, I don't care about money, let's talk about what you do care about. Do you care about travel? Do you want to have a family? Do you care about pets? Do you care, like, what are the things that you care about in your life? Because all of those things do take money. So let's, instead of inserting the emotion in it, let's look at what are the things that are important to me in my life. And that's where I've landed, and also not judging yourself for those things, and especially if they're different from other people's things. So, I am a parent. I have priorities around money that somebody who's not parenting doesn't, and that's okay. I also, like to get my nails done. That's also okay, right? So it took a long time for me to pull the emotion away from it and just go, this is a tool. I need to be super familiar with how much I make and how that breaks down. I'm divorced, and so I'm also like, it's me, it's all me. So I need to know, and I need to not judge, and I need to be okay with the financial decisions that I'm making, without shaming myself or ignoring it. And that's a journey, but I think that we practice it every day, right? We practice normalizing it. There are a few things in that category. Mental health is another one for me. Like, let's talk about the way that shows up in your daily life. So that's my and it's taken a while, but I still really love to say something very honest about personal finance, and just kind of see younger folks clock it or take note of like, okay, it's okay. It's okay to talk about money in this way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think there's definitely, from Australia, I think as I'm from Australia and I've worked in the USA and I've worked in multiple countries, I've had the attitude towards money is very different from place to place. You go to a job I'm currently based in Hong Kong, and the first thing you do if apply for your job, they'll say, how much do you get paid? That's the first question that they ask you, because they want to know what the benchmark of how much they have to pay you more to get you to come over to the company. So it's really interesting to see people's personal relationship with money and how that plays out. And there's that from a cultural perspective, but then there's also from an industry perspective where we come from this starving artist mentality, right? Where we are slaves to what we our craft and our things, and it doesn't the business side of it isn't important. But the reality is, if you want to truly create, you need a platform and the space and the time to do that. And as you said, money is a tool for that, for you to be able to do that. And if you look at it from that perspective, then you can arrange yourself to give yourself the space for that creativity. So what do you think, Jessica?
One, you were just saying surviving, like that sort of, starving artist concept. And in our book, we really tried to flip the script of a thriving artist, and not just financially, like in all aspects of their life. But for money, for me, I grew up with great privilege, and I was always very aware of that. I'm thankful to my mother for making sure that I had an awareness of what we had. And then today, it's really important, money and my relationship with my husband, because he works in television. So we have to be very careful about planning for when he's not working. And we did sit down and have a conversation. And I said, I think only one of us can play Hollywood. I said, this is a really risky for both of us to have to not just balance our own work life, but balance between the two of us. And so that was a conversation we had, driven by money. But the clearest moment for me that became a really big part of my decision making was that my husband, a theater set designer at the time, and I was the costume designer on a show. It was a freelance, non-union show. We went into the same office. We talked to the same person. And when we got in the car to go home, I was so excited. It's like, I just signed my first contract. And he said, well, how much are you getting? And I said, well, how much are you getting? And I was making $1,500 less than him. And it lit a fire. And it's still burning bright. And that really became an incredible motivator for me as a person, for my students. I walk into classrooms and today it's less, but I would say I have $200,000 in student loan debt. So if you want to transfer, let's talk about it. And we actually write down everything, budget everything. What do you want to do? What do you need to pay for, to make sure that we realize, and there's that student loan payment. So it drives my decisions probably more than it should, to be honest with you. I'm at a point in my career where I'm like, ooh, how much can I make, right? Because that fire's still burning. I still have to, and I'm not just doing it for myself, but for anyone who's realizing that they're not being paid what they deserve. A shout out to the costumers of the world, hashtag naked without us. They are still fighting in television and film to be paid what they deserve. But we have to talk about money. We have to say, this is how much this job can make. This is how much that job can make. We have to say those words because a lot of our students, new graduates, folks new to the industry might be thinking they're making a certain amount, and that's not happening for a couple of years. I think another thing we need to say is, I must make this minimum amount of money or I will walk away. And we have to say it. I have to practice it. I don't know if I'm that good at it. Even, like Camille is saying, we sometimes forget our own advice. Like, I'm like, hey, we wrote about this in chapter 5, So I'm going to look up what we said because I need I need that advice. But it's a really important part of the puzzle, and an amazing survey that was done at Center Theater Group revealed that money was the number one concern for folks that had graduated within the past 10 years in the arts. In that survey, it also said that money was the number one reason folks left the industry. So we like Camille said, like mental health, we need to be talking about this. We are all going through experiences that we can share. They're all valid. They're all important. So yeah, I talk about how much debt I have. I will never apologize for how much I want to make. And that has been a long road. We should never apologize for what we want to make or we deserve to make. But I'm not too worried because the next generation of theater artists, they know what they want. And with, and now they're going to have the voice to help shift what's happening. But yeah, money, we need it. We have to talk about it.
I want to come to your class. And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Art Life podcast is proud to be sponsored by ClearComm. ClearComm is the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts, relied upon from the Broadway stage to the West End to Cirque du Soleil, bringing seamless communication solutions to your stage. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out. No, I mean, even, I'm in my 40s and I still have those conversations with myself. And I ask myself, how do I fundamentally teach my children about that as well, and from a healthy perspective. Can I ask, Camille, how old are your children?
I have a 4-year-old and a 6.5-year-old, and we're already starting to talk about money. I mean, we talk about this is what it means. This is why we go to work. I think you were saying about the sort of martyrdom complex in theater. There's also I'm just really lucky to be in the industry, and it is a generational thing, because Jess is right. Gen Z is not here for that. It's delightful. I love it. But really, this, we talk to them about this is what money means. This is what it is, and that's a factor in planning your life, and that shouldn't be a secret thing or a dirty thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, Jessica, how old are your children?
They are 9 and 6. And same, we talk about money. We didn't talk about it in my house to the dollar amounts. We talked about it in umbrella terms. But, the conversations we're having now is, Dad's show got canceled. So we're going to be living a little bit differently for a couple of months. Only a few, right? We're going to be fine. So, but we're telling our kids this is our reality, that things are going to shift. It's going to be different. Everything costs money, and it's definitely. I think what we all are doing, right? We're trying to tell our kids more about it because perhaps we didn't know enough about it, and I have a sneaking suspicion that I added 2 more artists to the world, and so I'm glad it was going to happen, right?
They're going to be financially savvy artists, is what they're going to be. I have a for me though, my daughter is 9 and my son is 12, and they're smart as hell, and it backfires. My conversations with money backfire sometimes, because some of the conversation I have is well, mum's got to go away for work, and that's what we do to earn money to pay for the house and pay for the things and all of that. And then I was having this conversation with my daughter because she wanted to do 2 aerial silky yoga class sort of thing. And I said, oh, you can do one on Saturday too if you want. And she's like, but how much does it cost? And I said, no, it doesn't matter. We can afford it. But if I don't go, will you stay home? And I'm like, oh. What a way to run the guilt trip on the mum,
Oh, wow.
If I don't do this sports class, well, you don't have to leave me and go to work. So, they know how to hit you, right? The kids, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So you guys have mentioned, because you work with the younger generation, it's really interesting to me because I'm not teaching that generation. And you've made a number of reference to their change in attitude and ethos. Tell me a little bit about that, and what do you think then the future looks like in terms of the industry potentially?
I can start from the employer perspective, and then, of course, Jess teaches more. I teach at the undergrad level as well and the graduate level, but I graduated from college in 2006, and it was still very much hustle culture, and very, especially in theater, like, who can work the hardest, who can volunteer for the most stuff to show that you're like, it was, and it was really like, you got to prove yourself and then you'll start getting paid. This generation doesn't have that for the most part in a very healthy way. They're like, no, this is my labor, pay me, or I will take myself elsewhere. It's incredible. And, looking at the generational dynamics in the workforce, I think there's a lot of people so I'm like an elder millennial, cuspy between the next generation up. And it's funny to see the millennials be like, I'm a little irritated with you, but I'm also real proud of you. I had a really different journey, but you asked for that raise. I love it. I mean, I think it's really healthy and great. And I'm always proud of them. I think it's related to mental health, because they're much better at setting boundaries and saying and asking for that and expecting that in a healthy way and pushing for that in an industry that has been awful about respecting boundaries. So, and this whole conversation is also related to equity, diversity, and inclusion and anti-racism, because I think that a lot of this is tied to social justice and who gets in the door and who has the privilege to work for free or work for very low wages. And I think there's much more of an awareness of equity in that generation that they're pushing for, regardless of their own identity. They're pushing for, this is what's right. It's not right to work people until they are exhausted and leave the field. It's not right. It's not sustainable. I love it. I think that it's a super positive change. It is one of the factors that's forcing a complete reassessment of what it looks like to have a sustainable theater arts model.
It's amazing. Your thoughts, Jessica?
Yeah, I echo what Camille said. There's so many moments. I'm of the same generation and very much a product of hustle culture still. And as I sit in a car doing a podcast before I have to run to something else, right? But there's so many times with my students, and I just want to put out there, as a community college teacher, my students are not all 18, 19, 20, and that's why I love my job. So when we say students, we need to make sure we remember that students of all ages, right? Like equity, just what Camille was saying, including age. And they'll say things to me and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that was an option. Like, I say that to myself all the time. They're like, well, that internship, I do like it, but it's so far away, and the gas money, this and the this. And then I'm like, I didn't know that was an option to be that, pragmatic about making the choice. Like, they said, come, I would have been like, yes, thank you. I won't mess up, and they're like, well, let me think about how this affects me. And they're bold and they know what they want. The next generation of theater and entertainment artists at large. And the two things that I'm most impressed with and excited for is how multifaceted they all are. They know that they want to do a little of this and a little of that with this on the side. And to be honest, that's the landscape that's where the industry is going, is this multi-hyphenate approach. In my day, you were a costume and a scenic designer. What? Like, so many things, and now, yeah. And so now there's this entrepreneurial spirit that is a part of everything that they do. It's a part of their career plan. They will, over and over, what do you want to do when you're done with your training? Which, by the way, training never ends. But, what are you going to do when you're not with us anymore? And it always has something to do with my own business, my own brand, something with this entrepreneurial spirit, which is perfect because it's a business. At the end of the day, it is an art that we love, that happens to be a business. And so they're probably more business ready as individuals because of that entrepreneurial spirit that they have in them.
Mm. No, that's really good. It's good to hear. So there's two questions on the Theatre Art Life podcast we always ask. So I'm going to ask these questions of you, and it's a kind of more personal one. So I'll start with you, Camille. What's the most favorite thing about your job or the industry?
I imagine everybody says the people.
It's often the response, yeah. But it's good. It's like every time we finish a podcast, it's like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I love theater people. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how much I love the specialists, because in theater, we have a lot of really amazing specialists. And on all sides, on the administrative side, you've got people who are amazing grant writers. You have people who are like very, very specific data analysts in the marketing space. But everybody loves theater. And it's just so, we're doing Twilight Los Angeles by Anna Devere Smith. It's the 30th anniversary production at Center Theater Group. And we had an all-staff meeting yesterday. We spent 20 minutes talking about all of the stuff that all the different departments are doing around the show. Just seeing everybody being like, yeah, theater's the best. Like, I love it. I do feel so grateful to be in it. But yeah, people.
No, it's good. I was thinking about this the other day, and I say, like, I think one of the reasons is because theatre has to bring so many different skill sets around the table to do the one same common goal. And it's not the same as accounting firm or a legal firm. Like, they're all doing similar things, whereas here it's the lighting designer, the costume designer, the artist, the producer, and that diversity is fascinating. And to work as a team through that diversity is what I think is part of the reason that those people are so beautiful to work with. That's what I was sort of reflecting on the other day. We're doing a massively challenging project in Saudi Arabia here, and I often have to lean back on the fundamentals of the why, right? And and it comes down to that camaraderie as a team that gets us through every day, you know. And for you, Jessica?
So I have many jobs other than teaching, and I am a costume designer, which I have such a passion for. I'm very, very lucky to work at the same theater consistently at the Gary Marshall Theater in Burbank. But as much as I love designing, really, truly my favorite part of my job is being a mentor. And my mentors are still a huge part of my life, Raphael Hayen and Madeline Kozlowski. I make all my decisions being like, what do you guys think? Is that good? And now that I've been a teacher for a long time, about 12, 13 years of teaching, and I've been a part of so many of my students' lives the whole time. Community college takes some folks 10 years. And so I have so much, we have so much invested together, and I'm like in the passenger seat, getting to watch like all these amazing things that they're accomplishing. And they always come back, like they're always back in the shop, you know, telling us how they're doing, checking in. We've seen, you know, people in our program that go on, and now they have a baby. And like, that's just the most amazing part to me, is to be able to see their journey, especially their professional journey. And I can see the landscape changing as they've gone out into the industry, and each time they're changing it. So I love being a mentor. It's my favorite. I like when they text me what they're doing. You know, like I'm at work and I'm like, and you thought of me? Like, that's amazing. And I just have so much pride in all that they've accomplished. That is the best part.
That's amazing. I love it. Our second question is, if you could change one thing about the job or your industry, what would you change?
I think we still have a lot of systems that are built on inequity and white supremacy culture. And I think there's more awareness of it now, but we have a long, long journey ahead to be a truly anti-racist industry and anti-racist organizations individually.
Yes, that's a big, massive. That we have to do another whole podcast on that one. We should regroup and do that one. And for you, Jessica?
Yeah, mine is right off of what Camille is saying. For me, if my students were able to focus just on going to school, pay for them to go to school, they shouldn't have to pay for it themselves. Education should be available to everyone. They should be able to, I mean, they're doing it. They're balancing taking care of their family. They're balancing work. They're going to classes. But it shouldn't have to be that hard. Everyone should be able to go to school, get the funding that they need from that school, have access to education. And I would change that hands down. Anytime there's a hurdle for a student, it's because they're juggling. Well, let's not make them juggle so much, right? Mine would be the same. Education, equal access for everyone to be in the classroom when they want for as long as they want.
Wow, I'm going to try and circle back with you girls. I think we'll talk about that one next time because I don't want to leave it like that. No, because it does, for me, it starts with that accessibility to education, right? Like, I think that you can talk about the industry where it is now, but the pipeline has to feed into it, and it starts there. And until the pipeline allows for that, I remember somebody telling me in New York, and I don't live in the States, but it was the big kind of highlight for me. They said, Anna, like, if you're going to get an internship on Broadway, they're going to pay you a few $100 a week. And the only people that can go to those internships who are the people that have the wealth factor to be able to afford to live in New York City on a supplementary income that doesn't come from that internship, because you can't live on, a few $100 a week in New York. So that automatically excludes a whole demographic of people that can never do that. And it really, it's just one example, but I always think about that example because I think about what are the other barriers that I don't see. I'm in a position now where I have to employ a lot of people, and when I send out a job application, I'm constantly looking at who are the people that are applying and what's their what's their diversity. I've literally written to women and said, please apply for this job. I don't have any women in this pool of candidates that I have here, let alone ethnicities, right? And so it's a fundamental work for me, and I did a podcast a long time ago with a group of Asian Americans, and they called me out on my BS because I said something about, it's really hard, and they're like, but it's on you, Anna, you've got to do the work. And I constantly think about that for myself to try and, what are my biases? What are my barriers? Where am I going to find those people? Because some of those people don't apply, so I have to do the work to find them, and that's a lot of work. And like culture takes time to change. It's not something that I can snap my fingers and fix. But it's, for me, to talk with you guys from an educational sector, I feel a lot of it, breaking those barriers there starts a pipeline to allow that to happen. And I'm very, very passionate about that as well. So before we finish up, I'd like to just ask you guys, how do we find out, how do we find you, connect with you, and where do we see your book so that people can reach out after this podcast and get to know more?
Sure. Our book is available on the Routledge website. It's also on Amazon. It is called Navigating a Career in Technical Entertainment, Your Creative Career Guidebook. It's great for individuals. It's great for classrooms. We wrote it with that early career audience in mind. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only person in the world with my name, Camille Schenkkan, that I know of. So yeah, please track me down, and I'm always happy to talk to folks.
I'm on LinkedIn, and my online portfolio is JC Hansen Designs, and so you can message me through that. I'm also a teacher. My email's everywhere. You could just Google it, right? You can come to my office hours. But yeah, one thing that we're most excited about for the book that makes it different is the tone. We didn't write it in some like academic tone. It's just the two of us, like we went to coffee and we want to tell you a bunch of stuff, right? Already I'm using, ridiculous words, but we want to tell you about the stuff. We want, so the tone of it is really approachable. We are so incredibly lucky that so many of our network colleagues wanted to add their own thoughts. So we have these amazing entries from folks all over the industry, from a cruise ship to touring to theme park, and just wonderful advice from just a huge group of wonderful mentors. And then we have worksheets in the book so that you can actually take the information and say, well, but what does that have to do with me? And so I love a good reflection worksheet. So it's a way to really stop and put it in your perspective. And the idea is that it grows with you. There's a chapter in the end that talks about shifting careers. And someone that read our book said, you know what, I really needed that right now. I've been in the industry for 20 something years, and I think it's time for a change. So it really, as we wrote it, we realized it was really meant for anyone in any part of their career. Yes, come find us. We'd love to tell you more about it. We're online. Email us.
Amazing. Well, Jessica, Camille, fellow mothers in the industry, it was really a pleasure to get to know you. And thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Theater Art Life is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theaterartlife.com.